In my past Sumeru character guides, I've had to spend a lot of time explaining in detail how the new elemental reactions work, as they tend to matter a lot for the new units. Shocker, I know. So, I had an idea. Instead of repeating myself in as much detail in every video, I decided to start a mini-series where I go over every element's primary reactions, as well as their thematic design. On paper, the series should be both good for new players, but also still have important information weaved in for old veteran players. And all of this will be done in ideally under 5 minutes. With no time to lose, let's get going. Thematically, Dendro is the element of wisdom. In that respect, Dendro reactions are usually tertiary reactions, meaning they need 3 elemental applications to get value, requiring more setup and rewarding forethought and team drafting. Dendro reactions and Sumeru characters all have a stat sub-theme in elemental mastery. Dendro currently has no reaction with Geo, Anemo, or Cryo, but plenty of smaller reactions between Pyro, Hydro, and Electro, which is where we're going to be starting today. When you apply Dendro and Electro onto an enemy in either order, they'll be debuffed with Quicken. Quicken lasts a short duration, and quickened enemies will take increased Electro damage and increased Dendro damage, referred to as Aggravate and Spread, respectively. Aggravate and Spread are treated as flat damage that scale with the character's elemental mastery, and as such can critically strike and will be treated as the same damage type of the ability that triggered them. Flat damage is rather complicated as well, so please reference the screen guide for more information. Unlike Melt or Vaporize reactions, Quicken, Spread, and Aggravate setups lend themselves to being super forgiving. A party of multiple Dendro and Electro characters can see all members triggering their own Spreads or Aggravates as much as they want without worrying about interfering with the other party members' own reactions. Still, this reaction is subject to certain characters' internal cooldowns on proccing reactions, so it'll be up to the player to determine which units to play and how much elemental mastery to build for. When you react Dendro with Hydro, it will trigger Bloom, dropping a tiny seed on the ground near an enemy. These seeds will explode automatically if left alone, or they can be triggered manually with either Pyro or Electro applications. When you apply Pyro on the Bloom seed, it will explode, dealing Burgeon damage. When you apply Electro on the Bloom seed, it will shock a single nearby enemy with a shot of Hyper Bloom, dealing higher damage than Burgeon. Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon all scale exclusively with a character's elemental mastery. And they play well into the theme of Wisdom, requiring a lot of setup and enemy control to trigger the reaction, rewarding players with high damage. Since the third elemental application only requires you to hit the core, not the enemy, Hyperbloom and Burgeon play well into setting up multiple chain reactions on enemies, proccing both Aggravate in addition to Hyperbloom triggers, or Burning, which is the final Dendro reaction. Lastly, when Dendro reacts with Pyro, it will trigger Burning, dealing small damage over time, scaling with the elemental mastery of only the unit that triggered the reaction. Burning is kind of a mess. Unlike Quicken or Bloom, it doesn't require any third elemental application. This is probably because Mihoyo intended for players to use Burning as a setup reaction for other Pyro-based reactions, which would further play into the theme of Wisdom. However, the amount of Pyro applies is kind of nerfed, and it is often difficult to control which character in your party is actually triggering Burning itself, leading to wildly inconsistent damage due to its dependency on high elemental mastery builds. As far as meta goes, Dendro currently is pretty undersaturated in Genshin Impact's roster, so it's hard to place it at the moment. In my own opinion, I expect Quicken teams to have the most long-term success, as the reaction is super easy to trigger repeatedly on enemies and requires very little setup, and it was designed in such a way that benefits older Electro characters as much as it does newer ones. The healing/support options for Quicken teams are holding us back though. Both Electro healers have a lot to be desired, and there are currently no Dendro healers in the game. In my opinion, Bloom can be a little bit more questionable, as playing this little seed minigame is harder to manage than Quicken, but the damage from this reaction is definitely there. We've already seen some Burgeon and Hyper Bloom teams pop up, particularly surrounded around 4-star units like Kuki, Shinobu, and Toma. As of writing this video, Burning has no real meta usage due to its internal cooldown problems, low base damage, and difficulty controlling who can trigger it. In line with the Elemental Mastery sub-theme, Dendro Resonance increases the elemental mastery of all characters in your party by 50, and then further increases it by either 30 or 20 when triggering Dendro-related reactions. Alright, and that about wraps everything up. I couldn't get my audio mixed in time to upload this video, so it's gonna sound a little bit weird compared to how I usually sound, but that should be fine. And I might be able to rechange and upload it later. If you guys want to see more of this series or all of the other elements, please let me know. I'm going to actually be covering Hydro in the next video, I believe. I think it makes sense because of Nilo's release and how important Hydro is to a lot of the other elements. But yeah, thank you for watching, and don't forget to go outside and touch some real grass.